What's up, SNA fans? This is Super Ninja Austin back here with another SNA podcast video. This is the AEW Collision review on February 2nd, 2024. And yeah, this AEW Collision was very good and yeah, perfect for me to review this video. And I would say, start off on the first video. Let me start off first. The first match. I would say the opener. I would say this would be the match of the night, but I would rather prefer it to be, I would say, more like the second match, I'll say, because the main event was very great. So I'm going to give it the number one match of the night. But if it had been for the main event, this would be the number one match of the night. Because it's like a very underrated main event worthy contest between the AEW Continental Crown Champion against challenger Brian Keith. Even though I'm not sure if the championship was on the line, I don't think it was, but it was probably some kind of contenders match. But this is where we got Eddie Kingston Irish whipping him right into the bottom corner ropes. This is where he tried to hit a chop, but he dodged it. Went right towards the upper right, coming from not the right corner ropes. Hit a huge shoulder block, but Eddie Kingston hit him. Well, he hit him with a running clothesline when he was running towards the left corner side ropes. This is where he had him in the snapmare position, right into the snapmare elbow strikes right onto the head and the neck. This of Brian Keith, of course, is where he did. This is where he started grabbing on his ears and his head when he was hanging on the middle ropes onto the left corner side. This is where he placed him right here. This is where he started hanging him off there. This is where he started hitting knife edge chops repeatedly right onto the chest of Brian Keith.
Julian,
yes.
You know what Vengeance Day is? Was it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes. Yeah.
Hey, Vengeance Day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Motherfuckers always running their mouth. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. But this is where Eddie Kingston then. That's where Eddie Kingston started repeatedly. Then start hitting knife edge chops right onto Brian Keith. This is where he hit the belly to belly suplex right onto Kingston. This is where Eddie Kingston's like, man, like, I didn't know he was that heavy for being such a little guy. This is where he didn't pick him up, try to put him in some kind of like what's that, like a double chicken wing lock. But this is where Brian Keith put his leg on the rope, so he had to let go by the count of two. This is where Eddie Kingston started hitting a headbutt right onto Brian Keith, and then after he hit it onto him, this is where Brian Keith hit a headbutt of his own, and this is where they start hitting each other right back with some headbutts repeatedly, like I would say about between 4 to 5 times, like slowly but surely. Of course, this is where then Eddie Kingston hit the last time. This is where they were on their knees because Brian Keith was on his knees, like right on his right knee, I should say. And this is where he started hitting the headbutt right onto Eddie Kingston started hitting Brian Keith with the headbutt. This is where then Brian Keith hit back Eddie Kingston with a headbutt. This is where he started hitting him like about 5 straight times after Eddie Kingston hit like 2 straight time headbutt. This is where Eddie Kingston grabs on his face and slapped him across the face right in the middle of the ring. This is where Eddie Kingston's like, oh my god, like this. And this is some serious stuff. And this is where he tried to grab onto Brian Keith. This is where Brian Keith started hitting the elbow right into the midsection of Eddie. This is where Eddie grabs onto the head of Brian Keith, knees him right in the head. This is where he grabs him up. This is where he tried to go for a suplex right onto the young star. This is where Brian Keith was on his knees. This is where he tried to go for a suplex. But this is where Eddie Kingston didn't try to go for a suplex. But this is where Brian Keith tried to go for a suplex to him, but none of them were budging. They were not budging whatsoever. This is where Eddie Kingston hit a knife edge chop right onto Brian Keith. This is where Brian Keith's like, what he just did to me. And this is where he's like, oh, you done it now. This is where he hit a big forearm. This is where Eddie Kingston hit another knife edge chop to confirm that he is the number one guy in Gunther's indie list. And that did not make Gunther very happy. He had him again on the list. And he was like, as soon as I get a shot at AEW or you get a shot at WWE, Mr. Mad King, I'm coming after you next. And then this is where Brian Keith is like, you think that you're going to bring me down? This is where he hits a big forearm right back. This is where Eddie Kingston hit a knife edge chop, responding right back to to the bounty hunter. That's what his nickname is. This is where Eddie Kingston hit a knife edge chop right back, answering Brian Keith's strike. This is where they started doing repeatedly until they are very exhausted. This is where Brian Keith's like, you ain't gonna do nothing, aren't you? This is where Eddie Kingston's like, I'm not gonna do nothing. Like, little boy, please. This is where he hits another knife edge chop right onto the chest. He's like, you're nothing but just a minor teenager that think he's hard. Like, thinks he's hard, and he's gonna be the king of adulthood, which that'll never happen in the next 30 years of your life if you're considered being in your 30s. But anyway, this is where then what's his name? Brian Keith then hit a drop kick right on the right knee or left knee of his of the Mad King. This is where he was on both of his knees. This is where he gets booted right into the face by Brian Keith afterwards. This is where Brian Keith was like, that was very painful. This is where Brian Keith was like, man, they ain't lying about Eddie Kingston's not a very easy target when it comes to facing him as a contender or a champion. And it is where Eddie Kingston, this is where the Eddie Kingston fans are chanting for their favorite wrestler, chanting Eddie in this match, which, yeah, we all knew this was Eddie's match. Of course, this is where Brian Keith then tried to go for a wrist lock, and he spin around and hit a a reverse kick, I should say, a reverse kick right to the head. Try to go for a pin onto Eddie Kingston, but Eddie Kingston kicks out at 2.2, and this is where Brian Keith hits a knee to the face, drop right onto the face. This is where Eddie Kingston rolled out of the ring into the top corner. This is where he tried to chase him out of there, but it was too late. He already went out. This is where Eddie Kingston ran me on the right side of his face on my face, and this is where what's his name? Brian Keith then tried to go down there with Eddie Kingston, but Eddie Kingston caught him with a knife edge chop, which he's been added third time on this match in the NV list, and he's probably number one, just a little bit over Bryan Danielson right now. This is where Eddie Kingston then the Irish whip him right to the upper right corner side barricade, but his plan was backfired because Brian Keith countered that and threw him instead and went right on first, right onto the barricade. And this is where Eddie King's like, my arm, like, ow, like ow, ow, ow. Like, hopefully it's not broken. Like, and he was like, good, it's not broken. I still used it. Like, maybe just banged up from getting hit right into the barricade, because that does get extremely painful as the ring apron. And not to mention the concrete floor. This is where Brian Keith just starts smacking around Eddie Kingston's head. And this is where referee's like, hey, no time to play around. Throw him back in the ring so he can finish this match off. Like, you're already halfway there on your time limit, this time limit contest. This is where he tried to go for a pin as soon as he got into the ring. But Eddie Kingston gets out soonly at 2.6. And this is where Brian Keith started hitting some leg strike kicks right onto the chest of Eddie Kingston. Right, but as soon as he got back up, this is where he hits a knife edge chop right onto Brian Keith. And this is where Eddie Kingston's like, give me all you got. And this is where he started hitting chops repeatedly right onto Brian Keith. This is where Brian Keith answered back with elbow strikes lefts, right into the forward noggin of Eddie Kingston. This is where he tried to go for a running lariat, but this is where he gets spinning back suplex by the Mad King. This is where then Eddie Kingston started going back and forth until Eddie Kingston got him right to the bottom corner of ropes. This is where he started hitting chops nonstop right into the ring. This is where he had him placed right to the bottom the bottom turnbuckle in the upper left corner. This is where he tried to Irish whip him to the diagonal corner in the bottom right, but this is where Brian Keith then countered out of it and then threw him there instead. This is where he landed right there. Brian Keith tried to go for a splash right onto him, but he gets kicked right into the face by the Mad King. This is where the current crown champion tried to go up on the top rope. This is where he gets forearm right into the outside, into the right side area of the ring side area. My apologies. And this is where Brian Keith your tail is mine, Eddie, or Edward. This is where Eddie Kingston tried to get back up. This is where Eddie was like, ouch, man, this is very. This is very extremely brutally agonizing that I have ever experienced in my pro wrestling career from the past decade or dozen years, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, this is where Brian Keith then tried to get ready for him to be heading over to the bottom corner ringside area. And this is where Eddie Kingston got on the ropes. This is where Brian Keith tried to attack him with a maneuver, but he gets picked off by Eddie Kingston. And he started hitting knife edge chops right onto him. He started doing nonstop for the third straight time in a row. I was like, wow. Gunther probably already got him on the list about 300 different times. From Keith repeatedly hitting chops. If there's no tomorrow, no today, or even no next year. Well, I should say if there's no today, no tomorrow, no next week, no next month, or even a year. And this is where Eddie Kingston probably got him in the corner, but this is where he gets haluva booed by the Mad King. This is where Eddie Kingston was like, what today is. And this is where Brian Keith said, it's Saturday Night Collision, duh. And then he had a somersaulted cannonball right off the apron, right onto the outside in the bottom corner. This is where Brian Keith's like, yeah! Now I'm gonna throw this bounty right into the ring and finish him off. This is where he waited for him to get on the upper right. This is where he had to step up Instigiri right into the head. And this is where he goes for a fallaway power slam, but Eddie Kingston kicks out at 2.8. And this is where Brian Keith is like what do it takes to beat them to get a future opportunity shot for the AEW Continental Crown Championship. This is where he got him back up. This is where he tried to go for another maneuver, but this is where he gets countered by Eddie Kingston and hit an exploder suplex right onto the canvas. This is where Eddie Kingston's like, all right, now I got him right where I want him. I believe it's time for the or maybe this is where he thought he might have a chance to hit him with the back fist, but he was like, you know what? I just hit him with some kind of a suplex maneuver. But before he can even hit such a move like that, this is where he gets exploder suplex by Brian Keith. And this is where Brian Keith got back up like if he was the immortal Hulk Hogan. He was like, nope, not today. And he got back up, hit him with a spin around back fist. But before he can even have a chance to plan on execute, this is where executing the move successfully. This is where Brian Keith then grabbed onto his hand. This is where he got him right into a double underhook powerbomb maneuver, like a tiger driver, which he did a tiger driver sit-out powerbomb, but he gets kicked out at 2.99999999999 double triple nine minus 0.1 away from being 3. Yeah, that was not going to put the Mad King away. Yeah. 6 times, even if those or 6 times. I mean, what I'm saying, even if those times that happened before, it probably wouldn't work whatsoever on anybody in that matter. But anyway, this is where we got Eddie. This is where Brian Keith got back up. This is where he got him right into the bottom right. This is where he started hitting repeatedly knife edge chops right onto the chest. This is where he Irish whipped him from the bottom corner to the upper corner. But Eddie Kingston, this is where Eddie Kingston counter out of it and spin himself around, and hits a back fist right into the face by single whammy for now, which it was the second time. It was a guaranteed. And then this is where he tried to grab him, try to hit him with another maneuver. This is where he gets. This is where Brian Keith turns around, hits him with a spinneroon kick right into the head, like a forward roundhouse kick, and right up in the attic. This is where, because it hit him right in the chrome dome. This is where Eddie Kingston counters, hit him with the spinning superplex. This is where he tried to go for a pin, but if it hadn't been for that superplex, we probably would have seen him won. But but luckily he hit that move, so the move wouldn't gotten buried. The back fist wouldn't got buried. But Brian Keith kicked out at 2.999999999 double triple nine minus 0.1 away from EA3, which I believe Brian Keith thought that it was a back fist. If if he thought it was the back fist that he hit, that's the reason why he kicked out of it, and not much of the regalplex, which that kind of protect the back fist from being buried because he could have easily beat him with that back fist, but luckily that was going to be soon to be coming. This is where Brian Keith no time for games. No, I need. This is where he's saying all right, this is where he's like, come on, you give me what you got, Eddie Kingston. This is where Eddie Kingston started hitting knife edge chops completely repeatedly, if that makes sense, of course, just going numb, start hitting chops, which I believe he earned himself another 100, making it 400 MVs into Gunther's list, into his list, from the past few years. This is where, even though I'm not sure if he even had such a list in that long, but I just started saying that ever since I started doing these SNA podcast AEW reviews. But anyway, this is where after he was done, this is where Brian Keith didn't hit him with an instigiri out of interception. This is where Eddie Keith was hanging on to the right corner side ropes. This is where Brian Keith go for like a tornado DDT like maneuver, or even a reverse guillotine dragon sleeper. This is where Eddie Kingston elbows him. This is where he runs right to the right corner side, dodges him. This is where Eddie Kingston hits a sleeper right on the Brian Keith. But Brian Keith was trying to keep trying to stunner him to get him off of him. And I was what do you do not realize? What do you do not realize, Brian Keith? If you're not going to actually plant your head right under his chin to stun him, it's not going to work. And that was really the case because every time I hit the maneuver, we couldn't be so successful of stunning him right beneath his jaw. And then this is where Eddie Kingston, this is where Brian Keith did. It's where Brian Keith got out of the hole. Which he got, I believe, got on the ropes. Is where Eddie Kingston hits. And I said he put his leg on the rope. No, it was Eddie Kingston. Then hit him with a DDT, but he got kicked. But he got a 1-2 when he went for a pin, which was 2.9999999 double triple nine minus 0.1 away from being 3. This is where Eddie Kingston's all right, I got to put him away for good this time. This is where he was somewhat double lucky in his third attempt of hitting the back fist. As soon as he got him back up, this is where Brian Keith started hitting slaps right across his face. And this is where Eddie Kingston finally got him with the back fist, which he got a 1-2-3. And your winner of the opener, Eddie Kingston. Like I said, this was the second match of the night. And if it hadn't been for the main event, this would have been number one match of the night. Which that's something that I rarely do for openers or any time on the card for AEW on AEW Collision on any Collision show, including tonight. But this is where Tony Schiavone was like, "Hey, congratulations, Eddie!" And this is where with Eddie Kingston right onto sitting on the upper left corner side turnbuckles. This was all right, Kevin, and the Nigel was and he was it's so much to talk about. We just got done calling the match between Eddie and Brian Keith. What a match! And he was absolutely, you hit best. This was the proving ground match, Eddie. Of course, you have quite a fight. He was it was quite of a fight, wasn't it, brother? And this is where Eddie Kingston sarcastically said, it's Tony Schiavone. It's my good old buddy Tony Schiavone. Give it up for him. Mr. Captain Obvious right here. And he was like, yeah, preacher to him like he rules, and he's like, do me a favor, Tony, don't do me a favor, like talk to Bounty Hunter right there, and that's sitting diagonal for me. This is where Tony Schiavone's like Brian Keith, like the Texas native, like absolutely, like you had quite a match, my friend, like with great reviews, all like and this and this where All Elite Wrestling in Texas will announced this where Brian Keith, like starting tonight, like Brian Keith is officially All Elite, and then this is where we saw him right on the Titantron screen that he's finally All Elite. And I was like, what's up with these certain AEW wrestlers not wait until the last second of putting them in the what's it called? Putting them as All Elite on the Titantron screen on their logo with them saying like Brian Keith is All Elite, because they did that a couple years ago with Willow Nightingale when even though she wrestled a few matches before she was All Elite, and I was like, I thought she was already in the AEW roster, like under AEW contract, but I guess they wait until they give her a special introduction of being a part of the All Elite brand, like in a big moment match that they will have. I guess so. Like I don't understand why they do that sometimes, but hopefully this will be not much of an often thing. Only like rare occasions, like in every once in a while kind of deal. Hopefully that's the case. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if you agree with me or not on this. And yeah, and I thought he was already All Elite. Is it because it's Black History Month? They're trying to appreciate their African American wrestlers, because this is not the only guy they gave a special treat to, like in tonight's AEW Collision, like in a segment, of course. But yeah, you'll see exactly why when I talk about that in just a moment. But this is where we got everybody cheering for Brian Keith. Now he's officially All Elite, including Eddie Kingston, giving him a head shake and show of respect and raising his hand, until Bryan Danielson came out for his match against Churro, I believe, which he shook his hand. And he was like, Eddie, like, I'm not going to shake your hand because I don't know if I can trust you. And you're trying to do a better job making Gunther angry than I can easily do. And this is where Eddie King's like, whatever, I'm out of here. And this is where like you can enjoy your match. I'm not going to interfere. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to let you do mano a mano with Churro. Like, and good luck, you guys. You're might just need it. But this is where we got John Moxley in the backstage promo or a vignette. This earlier in this past Wednesday on Dynamite, or even though it was after he got brutally attacked by the CMLL Luchadors. This is where he's like, yeah, this business is the greatest sport in the world. Like, and so we don't have no reason not to show some experiences, like to the Luchadors, the CMLL guys, like it's the fans and everything, like it's the heritage of who's a lucha libre, isn't it? Like but dude, like you came in my house and talked some real sugar on the iced tea, and he's like, but even though I'm not even that mad, like about it, to be honest with you, like things happen like that, like, but your behavior, like must be paid for. When you need to pay your price. Like, you can come to AEW and try to have all these, like you think you have you can swarm in with me in a numbers disadvantage. Like, you're almost worse than that other channel. Like easy, lazy American wrestlers. I was like, is he referring to the company he formerly worked for? Like, like it has to be. Like, what other wrestling company could he refer to? Like, unless he's talking about a certain Nashville-based company, but it don't really have a reputation like that, at least not at this moment. So I'll say it has to be the other best company, which they haven't been looking good ever since news broke about Vince McMahon been filed a lawsuit against one of the women he had an affair with, which was Janelle Grant. And do you think this is a dig at WWE because of what's going on? And do you think that WWE is nearly going to go downhill because of this this investigation going on. Like even though Vince McMahon is no longer with the company, let alone being have anything to do with business with TKO whatsoever. But this is where we got John Moxley then continued saying like no man, like this is not World Wrestling Entertainment. This is All Elite Wrestling. And he didn't say that, but he was referring to it by digging on WWE by referencing them like on the other channel by calling them the other. This is where John Moxley, like in the Blackpool Company, is the elite of the elite. And I was like, that's very ironically redundant because I thought Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were the elite in the elite. Even though Kenny Omega is out right now because due to an illness that they'll keep him out for at least a half a year, if not a full one. But yeah, I still wish and hope and pray for a speedy recovery, by the way. And even though not Josh, what I'm talking about, Nicholas Jackson and Matthew Jackson, which I nearly accidentally called them Nick and Matt, which I want to show some respect because I am a fan of these tag team guys. But let's move on to the next slide. This is where we got. This is where we got a challenge with the Luchadors. We also had the Luchadors from CMLL being challenged by the Blackpool Combat Clubs, John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Bryan Danielson. This coming Wednesday on Phoenix at AEW Dynamite live in Phoenix, Arizona. But yeah, this is where we got the Hechuro match against Bryan Danielson. This is where they start grappling it out. This is where Bryan Danielson tried to go for it, and Achilles locked right onto the leg. But this is where Hechuro did not let it slide. This is where he tried to roll out of it, but he started doing the next best thing is slapping his opponent right across his face. And I would say this would deserve to be on, I'll say perhaps the third match of the night list, if that makes sense. Since Eddie Kingston is on the second list, that means this leads Bryan Danielson versus Hechuro, the second match of the night. I was like, if the main event wasn't really good, I would have gave this number one, number two options. But this is where we got them slapping each other right across the face, especially on their shoulders. Like, where the fans like, yes, this is where Bryan Danielson started rolling up into a pin. But this is where he got Hechuro and started slamming his face right onto the canvas. This is where Hechuro did roll up Bryan Danielson right into a sit down roll up. But this is where Bryan Danielson kicks out at 2.1. This is where Bryan Danielson hit a flying head scissors. This is where he rolled right under Hechuro's legs. This is where he locked in his legs right onto his legs, like in some kind of a hanging cable, I should say, to get up right on him and start messing up the both legs of the very brutal looking luchador, I should say. This is where I try to go for an arm stretch. That's what it was. Yeah, right onto the top. Like when he picked him right up. This is where Chiro's like, no, never. This is where he flips out of it and hits one of his own by tying his legs together with Bryan Danielson. This is where he stretched him up in the air, like right about 10 seconds. This is where Hechuro did it a second time and the third time, not to mention, like, along with doing it the first time. This is where Bryan Danielson, like, no, never surrender. This is where Bryan Danielson flips out of this is where we got them right on their knees, face to face, right onto each other. This is where the fans are chanting. And this is where the fans are chanting, thank you, Daniel, quack, 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 quack. Like, thank you, Daniel. This is where Charles like, you have all these people over me, but I'm never going to get over you either, and not in a good way, until everybody can join me at Xbox. Not Xbox. That's an Xbox. I mean, that guy can join me. Unless you can join me in a strike off. This is where Brian Danielson said, oh, that's very convenient. This is where he placed him right onto the upper right corner. This is where he started some running roundhouse kicks that look like the yes kick. And then this is where Brian Danielson's looking at Hector. He's like, you want to be right at that corner? It's where Churro was taking the page out of Samoa Joe's playbook, and he was like, nope. And this is where he started kicking him right in the face until Brian Danielson had to put him on the top rope into the upper right. And this is where he tried to go for an avalanche Hurricane Rana, but this is where Churro went for a roll up, but he got half of the. But he got half of the move, which had 2.5. This is where Brian Danielson then grabbed onto what's his name, Hechuro, which he landed right flat on the ground. This is where he actually put him right to the bottom corner ropes. This is where he tried to go for a back knife edge chop or even a backhand or a clothesline. But this is where he gets intercepted by Hechuro. This is where he hits a big this is where he hits a big close on. This is where Brian Danielson tried to go pick himself back up so he can hit more move. But this is where Hectoro then countered out of it. This is where he hits a wheelbarrow double foot stomp on Danielson. But Danielson flips out of it. This is where he put him right in the sleeper hold. This is where, well, I should say like where y'all can understand Heck. But yeah, this is where Hectoro had Brian Danielson right where he wanted him into the upper left corner, but Brian Danielson grabs onto the ropes. This is where we kick him right out of the ring. This is where we got This is where we start hitting uppercuts respectively right onto each other by battling it out. But Danielson get more of the European uppercuts, more than what's his name? Hecturo. This is where Brian Danielson tried to run right to the right corner side ropes. This is where he gets dodged by. Excuse me. This is where he tried to go for a head. This is where he tried to go for a headlock right onto Hectoro, but he throws him right into the outside in the right corner side. This is where Hectoro then try to go for a dive and flies off the middle ropes or even the top rope, which was a diving crossbody, which used to be the most comeback move in all of sports entertainment / pro wrestling in 2023. I mean, it's where. But this is where Brian Danielson did try to go for. But this is where Brian Danielson got him back right where he went into the middle of the ring. This is where he continued to do the label lock. This is where. But this is where. Hectoro was like, no, I would never surrender. I'm not tapping. This is where it's like, you know what? Two could play this game in a submission. It is submission activity game. This is where he did a fatal four-way like maneuver, flip him over, and then this is where Brian Danielson was getting stretched by Hectoro. This is where he trips him over, this is where he spins him around into a hurricane. That's right. But without the homeless man. This is where he started twisting him out like a cyclone. And then this is where he tried to bend his arms. This is where Brian Danielson was like, no, no. Like, I got a family to feed. I have kids to take care of. This is where Brian Danielson was like, I'm not like you that don't care much more than family than taking this sport very seriously. This is where he grabs onto the ropes. This is where what if he like what if you I don't know what I'm saying, but this is where Brian Danielson then grab onto the ropes. This is where the referee is like, "Hey, like you see my coat? Like I am the official around here in this match, or official in this match. Whoever I say in this ring goes." And this is where the referee was checking in for right on to Brian Danielson. This is where Brian Danielson was sitting up. This is where he started trying to nod his head, like, "Come on, like yes." This is where he started hitting right hands but this is where Brian Danielson started hitting the upper left roundhouse kicks right onto the attic, trying to open the door because he forgot the key just the other day. But luckily for him, he saw plenty of these. So yeah, not worry about that. This is where Brian Danielson to try to go for a anyway, try to go for a spinning roundhouse kick, but this where this is where Brian Danielson then gets back up, but this is where what's his name? And this is where what's his name? This is where Hectoro got back up. This is where he tried to gain some of his lead. Like even though he's higher, he's even though he's higher, like this. It showed that size don't matter. Like, and this is where Brian Danielson dodged out of what's that? Right out of the maneuver. This is where then Brian Danielson tried to Irish whip him right to the left course side, but he gets countered. But this is where Hectoro tried to go for a charging attack splash. But this is where Brian Danielson moves out of the way, hits the most devastating move in sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up slash of all pro wrestling, of course. This is where Brian Danielson tried to get back up. This is where he started getting ready to hit the yes move. He started doing the yes movement, even though he can't say it. But I believe he owns the rights of have the yes movement around him, and he can use it to time in WWE. Just where right, or no, in AEW television, that formerly known in WWE, of course, is where Brian Danielson tried to go for his famous running knee finishing maneuver. But this is where Hectoro counters out of it. This is where he tried to go for an arm bar, twisting his arm. This is where he grabs on the other arm, turns him around, and got him in the pin position. But this is where Brian Danielson kicks out of it. This is where he tried to go for a pin, but Brian Danielson kicks out more sooner at 2.3, I believe. And this is where he tried to go for a pin on the Brian Danielson, but Brian Danielson flips out of the roller. That's where he surprised him, which is the most devastating move in sports entertainment. And amazingly, he got the 1, 2, 3. I was like, oh joy. I think this was way past overdue because you should have. Yeah. But yeah, luckily Brian Danielson got a win. And what's your thoughts on what's next for the American Dragon? Let me know in the comments down below. And what's your thoughts on him winning this match with the surprise roll-up? And do you think it wouldn't have hurt if he just beat him normal? Or do you think, like, with a surprise maneuver like that, like, do you think he can redevelop that? Let me know your opinions in the comments down below. This is where we move on to the next slide. After this is where before we can have some more positive celebrations to the American Dragon, this is where he got attacked from behind by Hechiro. This is where he starts stomping him into the bottom left corner side. And I was thinking, like, most of these luchadors from CMLL or at least like this faction alone are definitely heels. And then this is where we got a theme music coming out, which I'm not sure what it was, but it was his fellow Blackpool Combat Club member, Claudio Casino, along with John Moxley. This is where they're like, you leave our boy alone. Like, nobody does not attack Brian. This is where we got a backstage interview with Daniel Garcia, along with FTR's Dax Willer and Dax Harwood and Cash Willer, of course. This is where Lexi after like last week on AEW Collision in that cage match, it was absolutely incredible. Like, so the plan to keep this trios team alive, what y'all do? And this is where Daniel Garcia. This is where Daniel Garcia is like, sometimes the best can come in best way, even when some doors even haven't opened yet. Like the success of, like, I've never been putting a trio on this year. Like, this is where. And this is where it's like, and yeah, everybody start calling us DJ FTR, and they call me DG FTR or FT what did he say, DG FTR, yeah. And this is where Daniel Garcia then continued saying, like, we even got matching gears, like, we're gonna change that, like, for the best. I don't care what you call, like, I don't care what you do. Like, I'm truly glad that these two guys are by my side. And this is where Dax Harwood was like, yeah, I expected. This is where Cass Will was like, yeah, I didn't know, I expect none of it, and also. But this is where, what were your thoughts on this match? And man, I'll say I would think that they're killing it in the main event scene. I see why they get the main event card, because they know how to put on a very excellent performance, if you guys know what I mean. But yeah, let's move on to the next slide, which is. And then this is where it's like, yeah, don't worry about that, like Daniel Garcia. Like, I guess top in the, he's top on the list. Like, they're very unbeatable force to be reckoned with. But I, it was but I know I can beat both of them, even if I was the only man on here. But there's one man that's on TNA. I mean, that's a TNA that's on the sleeves, like, that's gonna be coming there for. And he's like, yeah, like, I'm not sure if we were talking about the Patriot, right? But we are talking about factor of a TNT title. And this is where he's like, and this is where he calls out Christian. This is where he's like, hey, Christian, like, you're gonna be ours tonight. Like, and my boy Danny here is gonna challenge you for the AEW TNT Championship. This is where he said his catchphrase, top guys out. This is where we got a Hook in action against the Outrunners. Like, this was the 2-on-1 handicap match with Taz's son Hook. This is where and this is where Hook only lasted in the ring for like a good 2 minutes, because he started hitting hip suplexes on everyone. This is where Hook then hit a big right hand right onto this guy. That was the illegal man. This is where Hook then went back onto his side of the ring. This is where the referee's like, you can't attack the illegal guy that haven't been tagged yet. This is where what's his name? But I know there was a Hook in this match. This is where he put him right. This is where he tags in his tag button. This is where they started trying to double team Hook. This is where he put him right into his friend, like, and he's like, and then this is where one of these guys like grabs on the Hook. This is where he twists his arm into a wrist lock. This is where he tags in his tag partner. This is where they hit it. And this is where considering like this is where they start doing a 2-on-1 situation. This is where Hooks then start answering back with huge forearms right into the face. And this is where one of the guys started hitting hit Hook right into his face, until Hook was like, you think that's gonna keep me down? Like, I got hit with worse moves than that, even the Coquita Clutch. This is where he he got him into a suplex position on Hook. This is where he tags his partner in. This is where he hit a double suplex. I was like, even for successfully hitting such a maneuver, after he did those flexing muscle, before they could even pin the young the cool handsome Tasmanian devil, if you want to call him that, this is where they try to go over a double clothesline to him after he got back up and hear the truth. This is where Hook then hit a double clothesline right on the both guys. And this is what But this is where Hook then hit the exploder suplex right onto the. This is where he suplexed the smaller guy. This is where he says out to the big guy that's perhaps Billy Gunn's side. This is where he got him in the red one. And I believe the small guy trying to go for an attack with a weapon, but he dives out of the way, threw him out, and made the big guy that I'm assuming that's his father, Hook. And your winner of the FTW, here's your winner, the current FTW champion, Hook, in the third match of the night. The third match in a row, which I'll give it a fourth best match of the night, like if you want to say it. And that's where we got. But this is where we got. This is where we got to. But anyway, sorry about that. I'm trying to fix this right here. I'm trying to continue to maintain and wake myself up. But this is where we got an in-ring interview with Tony Schiavone with Mark Briscoe, which he was like, yeah, we saw you yesterday helping FTR and Daniel Garcia defeat the House of Black in this six-man escaped steel cage eliminator match. And then this is where he's like, I have to say, like, I hope, like, and he's like, and then you said you would be there right on their side and got their backs, and you were a man of your word, and you got their backs, like you did. Came out. This is where what Mark Briscoe said to Tony Schiavone is where Mark Briscoe's like, all right. And this is where it's like, yeah, you're right. This moment is very special for FTR and Daniel Garcia, but also it's very special for me, like because you see, like as a young man, like as a child, like that spent my Saturday nights with my big brother watching the TV. That was a man named Tony Schiavone, and I was like, that sounds very familiar with a certain Super Ninja Assassin man that has a brother that watches wrestling with him too. And the way he explained that sounds like someone similar that's on this video. But anyway, that's where he starts saying, on TV, it's Tony Schiavone. And he's like, and then I remember you were you in the microphone, like you talk to someone like that's best known as Dusty Rhodes and the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Like in Texas, like we can all agree right here and that it feels so damn good, like every night to be here with Tony Schiavone in it. That fans are like, you damn right, it is a good day. Like when we been given a microphone from Tony Schiavone. This is what fans start chanting, Tony, 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 Tony. And this is where Mark Briscoe's like, okay, time shimmer down, like just calm down, but we're gonna get to that. Like let's get to the point. Like last week, it came out to the aid of my blood brothers and my with my blood brothers FTR and my big time homie Tony, not Tony, Daniel Garcia. And then this is where he said, we fight for our friends, we fight for our families, hell, I went 5 steps of that stage, and I was getting back jumped by that House of that good for nothing, cowardly, sneaky House of Black. And he's like, he stomped me in my head, they picked me up and threw me over the stage like a sack of taters, like if there was some tater tots in the room. But anyway, this is where he continues saying, like if they left me from dead. But fast forward, when it comes to in the match, Tony Schiavone, after friends. Yeah, but at the end of the night, it was Mark Briscoe, yours truly, Daniel Garcia, and FTR that brought hands held high, like for the against the House of Black, and we've been throwing back in the locker room while they licking in their wounds, like. And this is where the fans start chanting, like, yeah, that's true. Like, you put them in their place. And this is where like, that's how we do. Like, like this town, we going to get back up. Like, no matter what. Like, you see this, well, there's old challenges here, like, about my life. Like, after 20 years of being one half of the baddest tag team of all the planet, the fans like, yeah, let's go, Briscoe, damn boys, Briscoe, damn boys. This is what they start chanting. After he said that, having a successful tag team run with his brother, Jay, this is where he was a very encouraging and supportive supportive guy. Like when it comes to the fans chanting about anything positive about him and his brother Jay, and this is where he's like, "Come on, keep him." And he's like, "And we're gonna now we know this plan." Like now, like all of a sudden, now I'm flying solo, Shivani. Like, and everything that didn't go like exactly the way my way, but that's all right, Mr. Shivani. Like, you know what I said? Like, you knocked me down, I'm gonna get right back. If you shoot me, then you better kill me, damn it, while you have the chance. Like when. And he's like, we're gonna fight until we cannot fight anymore. Like, and then we're gonna end the fight some more. Like, and then the lights went off. Like, and I was like, like, hopefully didn't say the House of Black's name too many times because you know the rules because they come out when you talk about them about something like and mention their name like about too many times. This is where House of Black then got on the Titantron screen. This is where he's like. Well, Mr. Briscoe, that's beautiful. That's very, very emotional. Like, don't you think? Like, how do you like magic tricks, Mr. Briscoe? Like, I'm off. I love magic tricks. Like, I specifically like the one that when the magician like makes people disappear. That's my most best trick of all. I was like, that may be my favorite trick of all, but more like an invisible kind of amazing magic trick, like not in a very evil, heartless, wicked, and soulless way, like you, Mr. Black. Like no disrespect, but yeah, just saying. Like, but anyway, this is where Malachi Black didn't continue to make his statement. Like he was like, you just don't think about what you say. You just spoke about it, Mr. Mark Briscoe. That we are going to eradicate you for will be a history of professional wrestling. Like, and what will happen? Like nobody won't remember you, and you're gonna be a guy that will leave the business, and when about 30 years from now, no one will know who the hell you were. You're just some country backwoods homeless man. Well, he didn't say all that, but I was referring what Malachi Black would say if he was not using such professional words. But anyway, this is where he's like he was like, and then your days are numbered, and it's gonna be just like this. The lights off, just like a snap of a finger. Which the lights went back off. This is where Mark Briscoe was watching surroundings, which was perhaps the smartest move to do. So he won't get jumped from behind. This is where Malachi Black is like was still on the screen. This is where he's like, you see, like that's not easy. Like that's being in. And this is where Mark Briscoe's like, what the hell that means? Like, and this is where Mark Briscoe's like, oh, like you're trying to bring them those mind games, like, and you're trying to catch me by surprise. But don't worry, like I'm gonna be watching my surroundings so you won't attack me. Like this is where Mark Briscoe's like, you don't see Malachi or Buddy or Brody or even Julia around here. Like, yeah, just being on the safe side. This is where he kept his eye on and watch his back, like from in the ring arena up to the stage, and he said he's probably okay and he's safe for now. This is where we got Adam Copeland was in a vignette, right? We're talking about the Cope Open Challenge, is where he's like, and also about Christian Cage and his TNT champ. Like, yeah, Christian Cage, like I'm not finished with you, like. The reason why I came up with the Cope Open Challenge, like, is see who's going to step up and face me. And And this is where he showed him facing the likes of Griff Garrison, Dante Martin, and even the Japanese New Japan Pro Wrestling legend Minoru Suzuki, which we thought IWC guys never thought that Adam Copeland will be Copeland will face somebody like legendary, someone like Minoru Suzuki that's in a totally different in a totally different vocabulary in professional wrestling. Like he's like, even though that he has a very good relationship with AEW, with the fact that it's the company that he's working for is in a very positive partnership with one another. But anyway, this is where we got. But yeah, what's your thoughts on this vignette with Adam Copeland? And do you think he's still got a chance of facing Christian Cage again for that TNT Championship? And it's only just a matter of time. And I believe he's doing it in the right way, like of being the guy that's trying to show that he's not trying to come in here and try to hog up the championships just like his friend Christian. Much rather earn them like everybody else has to, like even the young guys as well. And this is where next week they announced that Adam Copeland will be in an interview like in Vegas, which will be the day before the Super Bowl, which I believe the Super Bowl is going to be in Las Vegas. Except they're going to be at Allegiant Stadium, while I believe they're going to be in the T-Mobile Arena, I believe. Yeah, like where they usually have their AEW Double or Nothing shows on at. Yeah. Which, yeah, that's a funny coincidence. Like, I thought they would never have their AEW Collision show the night before where they're going to host the Super Bowl between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. And for those who are NFL fans, like, which team do you think is going to win? Let me know in the comments down below. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs, as a Chiefs fan, they're going to go all the way and win their third Super Bowl championship from the past 5 years. But yeah, let's move on to the next slide. But this is where we got Serena Deeb taking on Queen Aminata, I believe. Yeah, with Serena Deeb. But yeah, so Serena Deeb up next against Queen Aminata. I would say this was the fourth match of the night. I'll say maybe the fourth match of the night. Hopefully, I'm not mistaken. But I would say, yeah, it was Serena Deeb against Queen Aminata. I would say the Bryan Danielson match, yeah, that was third, and then Eddie Kingston second, and then yeah, I'll say this was the fourth match of the night. They were starting to do it in a row, except they made the best for last, which was number one. And then I'm seeing how the match, I'm going by how they were ranked and how good it was, and just by watching the match. But I believe they delivered again, even though I believe a week or two ago, Serena Deeb did wrestle Queen Aminata. She faced her second time in a row. But correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I could have sworn I saw this match before, but this match never disappoints. But this is where we got the match. This is where they start off. This is where we got grappled. This is where I believe Serena Deeb won the grappling battle. This is where she tripped her over, turned her around, put her foot right onto her back, and this is where Queen Aminata tried to roll out of it. This is where she tried to grab onto her leg. This is where she rolled out of it. This is where Queen Aminata was like, nope, like not today. Like you're not gonna put me down right away. Like not if I can do it first. This is where she was like, and plus your shoes are untied. This is where Serena Deeb's like, I'm not even wearing laces on these boots. And this is where Queen Aminata tried to go for a charge at her, but she was too late because what's her name? Because Serena Deeb was ready for her to try to go for an attack. They did a double grapple. This is where what's her name won this grappling battle. What's her name? Queen Aminata. This is where she twist her arm into a wrist lock. This is where she put her legs between her arms. This is where she even start shaking her rear end right into her face. This is where she grabs onto her arm. This is where she tried to slam her right to the ground. But this is where I believe Serena Deeb flips right over. This is where she trips. She trips Queen Aminata. This is where she tried to go for a pin onto the queen of her country in Africa. This is where she or continent. I believe they call Africa a continent. So I'll say in her continent in Africa, I should say, which I'm not sure what specifically where she's from, which I believe I heard it, but I just cannot remember what's the name is specifically. But yeah, but that's what I call her, the queen of her native continent. But this is where she grabs onto her legs and wrapped it around her legs. This is where she twisted them and started grabbing on her arms and started pulling her back and forth. This is where she tried to go for a pin right on the Queen Emanata, but this is where she kicks out of it. This is where Serena Deeb's like, wow, like, yeah, you're very good, like Miss Emanata. This is where Emanata was like, yeah, thank you. And this is where what's her name? Serena Deeb was responded like, yeah, you're very highly intelligent, like just like me, the professor. This is where Queen Emanata was like, yeah, I don't know about that, but I could say I appreciate the compliments that you are giving me. This is where they try to go for a hand lock arm battle. This is where we got Queen Emanata, got her in a hammerlock, won the arm, or this is where she put her in a sleeper. This is where Serena Deeb did an Irish whipper right from the right hand ropes. This is where she threw her right to the left side ropes. This is where she ducks down. This is where Queen Emanata went right through the right side. This is where she tried to hit a shoulder tackle, but Queen Emanata beat her to it. This was a highly anticipated and intelligent match, like for both women, like for them seeing the logic in their match respectively with one another. Hey, Birdie Bird. But anyway, yeah, to see the logic of what's going on with each other inside the squared circle. But anyway, this is where Queen Emanata run right through the bottom. I believe the bottom. What's that? Not the bottom. The upper corner ropes is where what's her name? Serena Deeb didn't trip her over and try to go for a single leg Boston Crab right in the middle of the canvas. This is where Queen Emanata grab onto the ropes in the bottom